Morgan. Nice to meet you.
Let me ask you, though, so with this script, in terms of science and the philosophy of science that's in it, what was something that you guys both liked about the script or that drew you to it?
I think, something that we were both sort of unaware of before, and then, through talking with Ridley and Luke, is that, it's not that far off. If it hasn't already happened, it's something that's plausible, and that was quite frightening and really mind-blowing, to be honest. But I also think what I really like about Morgan being a synthetic human rather than a robot is that, it's that question of a soul, you know what I mean? And I find that utterly fascinating.
Yeah, I love that about the movie and it was the same thing when I read the script, but watching it recently, you have very strong opinions about which characters are morally corrupt and which ones are right and mean well, and then your opinion kind of changes throughout the film, which I think is really interesting.
Totally.
Do you think there's any scenario where these scientists could create someone as human as Morgan and have it be ethical?
No. Not because they couldn't do it, but the ethics called into it. I think we both feel strongly that it wouldn't be fair to either the thing created or to the creators. So don't do it.
She had a tantrum. There was joy in her heart before we shoved her back in that box.
There's discussion in the movie about whether to call Morgan an it or a she. What do you think it says both about Morgan but also about her family that they call her a she instead of a he?
I think Morgan is sort of this kind of blank screen that everybody in the lab has projected onto her, and they project their own ideals and they project the own way that they see her. And I think it's because they're all scientists and they've been working really hard and they've done it, and so she's just sort of like this beacon kind of thing for them. And I think that they all call her a she because that's just how they see her, and it doesn't come down to anything else other than that for me.
Well, obviously my character is coming in with a very different perspective because she's trained completely to look at this being as an it, and there's no question about it. There's no gray area. It is what it is, and it's black or white to her. It's either got to be killed or it's safe to keep alive, and there's nothing more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm. I bring it up because it's kind of interesting that one of our writers did a story about how in science fiction, humanoid robots are the vast majority of the time women or given female characteristics. And this movie, not wanting to give away too many spoilers, ends up with two women really, it's an action movie, sort of breaking a gender barrier there in terms of two women being the lead and being the toughest characters in this movie. So I thought that was something interesting, and I don't know if you picked up on that, just the unassumingness of a female character really being broken down by, if I can say it, both of your characters. I don't know if that was something that you considered as well, just that contradiction of, or contrast that maybe some people see them as feminine and thus not as threatening, even though that's quite the opposite.
Yeah, well, I think that the movie in general is surprising. You're constantly surprised. So in order to keep that, I think it does sort of make sense.
To break barriers.
Yeah, and to make them female or seem female. Because maybe you expect them to be sort of more calm and less aggressive. But I don't know, because I know you should talk to Luke about that, because I know there was a lot of discussion about hiring a man to play Morgan as well. So I'm not really sure maybe it was just Anya's performance in her audition that made them decide that it would be female, but or it could have been something bigger, a bigger decision before that. I'm not really sure.
And in terms of the fights, I think I remember going into stunt training for the first time and talking to our choreographer and him just saying very point blankly, this is going to be ugly, this is going to be visceral, this is going to be bone crunching, and there's going to be nothing sexy about it, and we're going to create a fight between these two women that is purely down to strength and grit in the same way that if not more violent than you've seen a fight between two men. And I and Kate, I think we can talk, for both of us, are incredibly proud to be a part of that.
You'll see now how happy we can be.
It was very impressive to watch.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That said, do you think that the scientist Morgan's family underestimate her humanity as much as they seem to be the ones who value it? And I think mostly of the fact that they put her back in the cage, after she's been out. Do you think they underestimate that, even though they seem like they're the ones who love her the most?
I think, I just think that all of them, have varying degrees of how much they buy into it. You've got the older, maybe more established scientists who have it very clear of wanting to keep their emotions away from, this scientific experiment that they've made. But I think the majority of the family in there didn't want to put her back in the box and really understand her humanity. And I think what they underestimate is a part of humanity is rage, and a part of humanity is being angry and wanting retribution.
Demonstrate it for me. What is that? I don't know what that is. Show me how you feel.
Morgan goes through a bit of a rebellion, and I think watching it, I think you could interpret it in different ways where that outburst comes from. Do you think it comes from the human side or from the artificial side?
For me, it comes from both. I don't think you can extricate the two of them. I think that you back an animal into a corner and you don't allow it to leave, even if it doesn't want to fight you. Everyone's initial instinct is always to survive, and so if the only way that you're going to get out is to get out fighting, you're going to fight. But I also think that there is, I think Morgan has this incredible ability to, be really emotional and vulnerable and all of these things, but then there's a certain limit where she's like, wait a second, I'm really smart and I'm really strong. Okay, let's, tables have turned. Let's change this around a little bit, and that was fun to play, for sure.